Ladies and gentlemen, we're very privileged to have Colonel Jeff Cooper stop by our booth today at the 1992 SHOT Show. And we have a couple of questions, and those of you who read Colonel Cooper's writings as far as in magazines or the books he's written know that this is one man who's not afraid to voice his opinion. And that's something we respect very much, and we think we need a lot more of this in our country today. Now, Colonel Cooper, I have a question for you. What do you think the current political climate is toward the American gun owner?
The situation is not as healthy as we would like. Much of it has to do with the continued urbanization of society. A society in which very few people have ever been off the pavement. And they have been progressively, I would say, drooping in their moral output and the notion of how they should handle themselves, especially in a very turbulent society which we have now. The problem of handling street crime, for example, is one of attitude, more than weapons. And if we armed everybody, I'm not sure that people would have the will to use them. So we have a double problem of people who are unfamiliar with firearms in general. They haven't been out in the back lot as the farm boy was, and they are terrified of taking any sort of action for fear of litigation. It's an unhealthy situation.
Well, you know, that's one of the purposes of our program is to show people that firearms aren't the evil things that are proposed by the common media, and we're having some success at that. Sir, do you find some satisfaction in the military going to a different caliber pistol for special purposes? I know you're not a great fan of the 9mm handgun.
Well, we've got two questions there. The second one, if I remember correctly, had to do with the direction of the military. And while we have a good many friends of ours who come and work with us who are in the military establishment, in general, the attitude of the people using the weapons is negative on the reduction in the power potential of the handgun. Handguns don't win wars. We don't even fight wars with handguns, but we sometimes save the lives of men who go on later and become the men who do win wars. I can give you many examples. And that being the case, the people on the line who have to use them are not in favor of the small caliber. We have many cases back from Desert Storm, friends of ours, acquaintances, and I have yet to find a man who pressed the trigger on an M16, but I have 6 who have pressed the trigger on a handgun. 5 of them use a 45 automatic by choice, because they preferred it to the 9.
Well, we want to mention, a lot of our viewers will remember a few weeks ago we featured one of your GSP handguns on our program, and we noticed that it was well thought out. What was your objective when you began that project on the GSP handgun?
Well, we started with the notion that the 1911 pistol is still the best service defensive sidearm that we know of. It could be improved. Mainly, it could be made so that when it comes out of the box, over the counter, it's ready to go. So that was my notion. I said, we'll take a 1911 pistol and do the things to it which need to be done, and nothing it doesn't need to be done, and try to make that ready to go when the customer buys it, so he doesn't have to take the pistol to a gunsmith to get it ready to shoot.
Now, our viewers interested in one of your conversions or customized GSP handguns can write to you out at Gunsight. Is that correct?
Well, we have them for sale insofar as we can keep up with the demand.
Well, we will flash your address on the screen and phone numbers if you'd like, so anyone interested can do that. Tell us about your training facility out in Paulden, Arizona, if you would, sir.
Gunsight Ranch is about 4 miles from Rowland Post Office. It's out in the woods. We have an academy there where we teach various types of small arms. We teach pistol, rifle, carbine, and shotgun. We started out as the American Pistol Institute because we thought that the American pistol technique developed in the early days of competition was something that no one else had. Now we find that nobody has any technique with anything. And since the people can't learn the marksmanship in the military anymore, and nobody is in the military anymore, If you want to learn to shoot a rifle, for example, there isn't much you can do except come
Well,
in a class by itself. It's the only semi-automatic rifle I know of that was issued to troops in serious war that stood up and did the job. Among other things, you can get a reasonably good trigger in a Garand, but you can't seem to get an M16. Now, you drop that subject and go to the cartridge. 22 was dreamed up because people thought that the troops were not going to be able to be taught to shoot. They were not going to be able to shoot any distance. They wanted something that was light. They figured if you can't shoot well, shoot a lot. So if you have a man with an M1, and you could issue him 80 rounds, 80. If you have a man with an M16, you would issue him 160 rounds, 160. That's twice as many rounds. Is twice as many better? That depends on how much you plan to miss. Our feeling is that you should hit what you shoot. But I think the armies of the world have pretty much given up on that.
well, I understand that currently the U.S. military is researching a larger cartridge than the 223. Is that correct? Or?
I don't know for sure. It's possible. The military spends most of its time chasing rainbows in terms of equipment that will overcome the weaknesses of the user. This is extremely dangerous because you can't do that. And if to the extent that you could do that, you would make those weapons available to the entire world, and we don't want that. At least I don't. I want weapons which are not all that easy to use, and so that only people of a very high type can use them. This is the story of the English longbow. You know, it was a secret weapon, but the French could buy all the longbows they want, but they couldn't win.
They couldn't use them. They didn't have the technique. Well, you know, we're seeing this across the country, and we're hearing from different police departments, and our company does some work for different government agencies on occasion. And what we're seeing is the police officers we talk to are caught in a scramble of more bullets and more bullets. I'll pass this along to you. Recently, where I'm from in Shreveport, we had a police action. Two police officers fired 66 rounds out of the particular handgun they were using was a Glock 17, and they hit their subject twice out of 66 rounds.
Excuse me, but they're really reasonably fortunate they didn't shoot each other.
Well, my question was, where'd the other 64 bullets go?
Around and about. I know they're lucky if they didn't knock off some spectators and so on. We had an interesting case not long ago, just last year, where a police pair, a man and a woman, went to respond to a call for a supposedly dangerous dog. And the woman officer opened fire on the dog when she thought it was going to attack her. And she didn't hit the dog, but she shot her partner in the leg. So here you have a real solution to the spray and pray technique.
Right. Well, I personally feel like a lot of the line officers would have been much better off if they had stayed with their 6-shot revolvers and learned to shoot what they had.
There's no question about this. It's the man who fights. The instrument is just the cutting edge. Trying to build better and better and better tires in order to win Indianapolis is a worthy aim, but it's not going to win Indianapolis. You've got to have a couple of other things besides the tire. And in the use of small arms in combat, the man is overwhelmingly the most important. If he does it right, it really doesn't matter what kind of weapon he has. These situations you speak of could have been solved beautifully by a police officer using, say, a 1859 Dragoon.
If they'd only been trained in proper use of the weapon.
If they've been trained, if they thought right. Partly it's training, but you can't train a man who doesn't want to be trained.
Well, do you agree that today mindset is what is so lacking in any agency concerning dealing with dangerous felons or any sort of violence? I probably got that out of one of your writings in Guns and Ammo magazine. Mindset is the primary problem that we have to overcome. Is that correct?
Oh, sure. And it's very difficult because one of the elements of mindset is determination, aggressiveness, all right, anger. And if you start mentioning that, much less teaching it, the law enforcement establishment, they throw you out.
Well, don't you agree we're seeing a passive I read one recently where the aim of some of our social directors in Washington was to Swedenize the United States with that sort of socialist type government where everything was passive all the way from kindergarten up through retirement. And I think we're seeing the effects of some of that, whereas as citizens we're not allowed to defend ourselves against brutal attack. And I think this is something that the government...
They won't even let little boys fight in school. I've known of little boys in the early grades, 5th or 6th grades, being sent home because of fighting. I thought that's what little boys did. I mean, when they're little, they can't hurt each other. And so you can let them throw punches and receive punches and stand up for their rights and act like men. That's why they go to school, but not today.
Well, I think you're right. Well, this may be difficult to answer, but I think you'd be in a better position than most of the people that I know of to make a statement on this. Where are we going, Colonel Cooper? What's going to happen if the current trends continue about gun ownership in America? What's going to happen to our country?
I heard it said by a friend of mine to shorten the subject, if ye choose to be sheep, ye shall be mutton.
Well, I think that's put about as well as it could be. Well, Colonel Cooper, thank you so much for taking time to visit with us. It's been a tremendous pleasure for me meeting you. I've been a fan of yours for many years, and we hope that you're going to continue doing your part for many years to come.
Thank you. We'll do our best.